Hello and welcome back to T Money Talks with your special host, T Money. In today's episode, we're going to talk about T Money finding themselves again. They were once lost, but now they're making their way back to who they once were, but just leveled up. So sit back, relax, and let's enjoy the ride. Welcome one and all to T Money Talks. That's right, folks, we are in our second episode of T Money Talks, and I'm gonna dive deep into another layer of who I am. Well, I guess not in a way so much diving deep, but just getting another feel about who I am, getting to know more of T Money. That's what's going on in this podcast. We dipped our toes in the water, we got to know me, we know the surface of who T Money is, but now we're just gonna get into another layer, and that's where it's gonna get kind of tricky. But you know what? We're just gonna enjoy the ride. We're just gonna see how things flow, and I'm gonna tell you guys how I lost who I was and came back around and found myself. Now I know what you're thinking. What do you mean, lost yourself and now you're found? And the best way I could describe it is thinking about someone who is religious, I guess. Like, they were lost and then they found God, and then oh my God, I know who I am again. That's kind of what I'm talking about, minus the religion and finding God part. Now, don't get me wrong, what you believe is what you believe, and that's totally cool. Anything and everything is possible. But disclaimer about this episode, it's gonna be about I'm going to talk a lot about astrology. Now, I'm not an astrology expert. I don't know a whole lot about it. I know some things because I'm slowly learning more and more as I go through this whole process of finding myself again. So be warned, I will be talking about astrology, and I will try to explain things as best as I can as we go along. But again, if there's something that I mention or I say and I don't explain it, that's probably because I don't know much about it myself, just the basics of it, enough to use it in my story. But other than that, if there's something else, go ahead and just Google it or something, or if you don't want to, that's cool too. We're all just here, we're just vibing, and now that's what we're doing. But yes, that's pretty much what I'm going to be talking about when I say finding myself again. So yeah, let's get right into it. Why keep you guys waiting any longer? Let's get this started. So I am born in February, and if you know your zodiac sign, then you know the sign your sun sign. Yes, I believe it's a sun sign. I hope it's a sun sign. Yeah. But yeah, so Aquarius or Leo or Virgo, those signs, those zodiac signs. In February, it's usually either Aquarius or Pisces. And well, I was born February 18th. That's kind of the cutoff mark for either an Aquarius or a Pisces. And for me, what I learned was that I was an Aquarius. So little old me as a child, I'm an Aquarius. I don't know what that means, but that sounds lovely. But then, so yeah, I was born, I grew up thinking I was an Aquarius. And then when I started to get older and learn what zodiac signs are and what they mean and how they just define who you are as a person, the character traits you might have, why you're like this and stuff like that, that intrigued me. So as I got older and I was able to go on the internet and do research and look for myself what a zodiac sign is, I learned I was an Aquarius, because on the websites I use and pretty much everything, I was like, what's your date of birth? And I was like, February 18th. They're like, you're an Aquarius. I was like, awesome, man. Cool. And so I started like looking up what does it mean to be an Aquarius? What are the traits of an Aquarius? And like all this Aquarius stuff. Anything Aquarius, like I was on it. I was reading it, I was searching it. I was like, I'm going to be the most Aquarius there ever was to like ever exist. But the one thing that really got me about about being an Aquarius is that they're very individual people. They don't like to go with the flow. They don't like to do the same thing as everyone else. They're very much, I'm my own person. I'm going to do what I want to do because I'm different, and I'm not going to do what society wants me to do. And growing up, I kind of always thought that way, and I was thinking outside of the box, doing stuff differently, was kind of like the way I grew up, the way it was just like born inside me. I was like, I can't be like everyone else. I just can't. Like, I have to do something that makes me stand out. And so as a kid, I was always being like extra loud or like doing something crazy that no one else would want to do. So I'd be the one like climbing up trees or going up onto the fences or like climbing on roofs and like jumping down and like just doing crazy things. Because in my mind, I was like, well, what girl child wants to go running around climbing trees and jumping off of roofs? Like, that's not normal for little girls to want to do that. They're like, oh, I want to play with my little dolls because I'm a lady and I want to be a ballerina. But like for me, I was like, no, I don't like, yeah, I played with dolls and stuff, but like that wasn't the only thing I was like, no, I'm different. I like to do stuff that boys do. I like to do stuff that girls do too. And like it, for me, when I found out that Aquarius people are very out of the box, different, outside of the norm people, I'm like, that makes total sense why I was always trying to do things different than everyone else and why I was so creative growing up. So I was like, yes, this is absolutely me, like 100%. And so like I would start doing like, I would get my horoscope like emailed to me every morning in high school, and I would like either read it in the morning or read it at night to see like if it was true. I was hardcore into it, but not as hardcore, or not, I'm sorry, hardcore is not the right word. I was not as acknowledged about how far astrology could go. There's more than just a zodiac sign in astrology. And for me, I was ignorant because all I knew was the zodiac sign, and I was like, I'm an Aquarius, and that's all I knew. I didn't know that it went even further than that. So correction on when I said the word I said. I can't remember what I just said. But the word I said that's me explaining why I was incorrect in using that word. Anyways, let's backpedal back to my story. But yeah, so I was finding out everything I know like there was about being an Aquarius. And then also learned that the birthstone color of Aquarius is purple, and the birthstone of like the month you're born is purple, and purple has always been my favorite color. I literally came out of my mother's womb saying, I like purple. Purple it's just always been my color, and it will forever be my color. And that's why it's my color is a whole nother story for another episode. I will definitely come back to why purple is an important thing in my story of life. But another time, back to being why I have me finding myself. Anyways, so I was learning those facts, and I was like, wow, this is great. This just totally defines who I am as a person. This makes sense as to why I grew up and did the things I did. And I was just like, everything in my world it just makes sense right now. And it was just perfect. And I was like, just going through high school and middle school, like, yeah, I'm different. Yeah, I'm different, man. Yeah. And then like I was on the tennis team in high school as well. And the one thing that set me apart from all my other teammates was that I would always carry around a sweat rag. Yes, you heard me right. Sweat rag. I would have like a bunch of different colored towels that I would just carry with me and take them out to my match. And whenever I would get hot and sweaty, because I sweat so much, it's like, I swear I'm going through menopause. I sweat so much, like it's the worst thing in the world. So I was like, well, I know I sweat this much, why shouldn't I bring a towel to help wipe off the sweat from me? And so that's what I would do. And my teammates would always be like, why are you carrying around a sweat rag? And they thought it was the funniest thing, but I explained it to them like, no, man, like I need this. And so then that kind of became my thing that made me different from everyone else, was that I had a sweat rag. And so it's like I've always been doing things to stand out. And then after I graduated high school and I went into college. This is not the part of the story where like, oh boy, they went into college and now they lost themselves. And here we are, listening to this poor child find themselves again. No, this is not where I lose myself. So I graduate high school and then I go into college and I'm still under the knowledge and information that I am an Aquarius and nothing else. I am an Aquarius. That is who I am. It defines me. It is a very big part of who I am. And then so I just kind of keep living life the same way I have, like doing things. And that's kind of what got me into being like in plays and like doing just like a bunch of more creative things, is like knowing that being an Aquarius is about being creative. And that's why like I'm so creative. And so I like really try to dive deep into that. But then I transfer colleges and I take my, I believe, like third acting class, because I took my very first acting class at community college, and that literally that class changed my life for the better. That too could be a whole nother episode of how acting changed my life, but not like in the sense of like it made me famous or anything. Just like really helped define and help me build who I am, helped shape me. Yeah, definitely that acting class 100% helped shape me into who I am. But yeah, anyway, so I've just kind of like grew up my whole life like under the impression of that I'm an Aquarius, and like that's kind of how like I molded myself, and like the things that influenced me helped make me who I am, and being an Aquarius was the biggest influence of like my whole life. So back to the part where I finally transfer colleges, and I'm at my like third acting class, and I meet someone. Now this folks, this is this part of the story where it starts to get a little wild here. This is where things start like shaking. The boat is rocking. We're about to go into the sea and fall overboard. This is where the storm is a brewing. The storm is a coming. That's what this part of the story is here, folks. When I finally transferred colleges, and I'm taking my third or my fourth acting class, I meet someone, and this person literally changed my life. Not just the professor of the class, by the way. The professor of that class 100% changed my whole life. Like, Kimberly Guerrero, I love you and I wish nothing but the best for you, and I need to email you because I miss you so much. But no, aside from the professor, I made a friend, and I don't know if I should say their name. I wonder if they're gonna listen to this. Anyways, so I met this person, and they were really cool, and we like got along really well, and we are like, oh, I think I made a friend. Anyways, fast forward to like us to like a couple of weeks into class, and then I had brought my guitar to class because my professor asked me to play like some music for us for exercise we did, and so I did. And so at the end of the class, they come up to me asking like to write a song together or like just jam out, and I was like, yeah, for sure, that sounds cool. And then they tell me, well, they didn't tell me, they asked me what my sign was, and I was like, oh, I'm an Aquarius. And then they looked at me, they're like, no, you're a Pisces. And when they said that, it kind of like, I was like thrown off a little bit. And also I was kind of like not upset or slightly offended, but more so like I wanted to like defend myself. No, I'm not a Pisces, I'm an Aquarius. What do you mean? Type of feel. I was like, no, I'm an Aquarius. And then I told them like my birthday, and they're like, oh, I guess you are. And then so this is where I found out there's more to astrology than just your zodiac sign from the day you're born. But yeah, so my friend, they tell me I'm a Pisces, and I'm like thrown back for a second, and then I'm like, no, I'm an Aquarius. And anyways, so long story short, I end up inviting them. I end up inviting them to my birthday party, and then they come out. Then they come to my party. It was very small. I don't really like parties. When I say birthday party, I mean like there was probably like 6 people or less there, because I have a very small friend group, and I love them, every single one of my friends in my group, and those are the people who I like to party with on my birthday. I don't need like a giant thing. I just need my friends and a couple of other stuff, and we're set to go. Anyway, so they come to my party, and then they ask me, oh, what time were you born? And I was like, I don't know. Why? And then they tell me that they wanted to look up my birth chart so they could finally figure out if I'm an Aquarius or if I'm a Pisces. And I'm like, what's a birth chart? You know, because I'm like, all I know is my zodiac sign. I don't know what a birth chart is. I didn't know what that meant. And then they explained to me that a birth chart is just when you put in your birthday, your birth time, the place you were born, and something else I can't remember. But anyways, and then that tells you like your sun sign, your rising, and your moon sign, like, and all this other stuff, and like your placements, and where like your Mars is, and what Mercury, and like all this really cool stuff that goes far beyond just your zodiac sign. And when they were explaining this to me, I was like, oh, this sounds like pretty interesting. But at the same time, I was kind of scared to give them my birth time, because I was, well, what if they do this and then we find out I'm not an Aquarius? But anyways, so I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll get you my birth time. And then so later on, I asked my mom, I was like, oh, well, what time was I born? And then they told me, and then I texted my friend, and then they were like, no, you're a Pisces. And I was like, no, I'm not, I'm an Aquarius. Because they like put in the whole information on the birth chart. And then that's when they told me, well, I think maybe you're a cusp then. And I was like, I'm a what? What does that mean? What is a cusp? Because again, there's so much to astrology that I had no idea existed until I met my friend. And you know what? I'm just gonna say their name so the story could flow better. Their name is Santi. If you're listening to this, hello. And if you're not, that's okay too. Anyways, so they tell me that I'm a cusp, and then Santi explains that a cusp is someone who's born on the day that like is in between, that lies on being an Aquarius or being a Pisces. So like February 18th on certain websites, the Aquarius is from like January to like February 18th. And then there's other websites that say an Aquarius is from like January to some date in January to like February 17th. So then Pisces would start February 18th and then continue on. And I was like, oh, so I'm like both of them. And then they explained to me that, yeah, like I'm a cusp. That means like you have a little bit of both. And I was like, interesting. But disclaimer as well. So, well, actually, side note, cusps is kind of in the astrology community is like a word that like some people believe and other people don't believe. Like some people believe cusps exists, other people don't believe that cusps exist. Like it's either you're one zodiac sign or you're nothing, pretty much. But and however you feel, again, like that's how you feel. Like there's no right or wrong, I feel like. So, like just vibe anyways. So they explained to me that I'm a cusp, and then that's kind of where I start to like ponder and like wonder like what does that mean? Like am I not who I thought I was anymore? And like hearing this, like I started to slowly start to like lose myself in the reality that I wasn't who I thought I was, because I was also a Pisces and I had no idea like the traits of a Pisces, what makes a Pisces. Like I had no knowledge of what a Pisces is like at all. And so like as we start hanging out and stuff, they tell me more and more about like astrology. So they tell me about like my rising sign and my moon sign and like my Mars, where my Mars is, and like all this other really cool interesting stuff. And I like start downloading other apps that like to do my birth chart myself, so I could like go ahead and read all these things about me, why I am the way I am, through like different things and stuff like that is what I was doing as like we became friends. And we were like just, and they were really teaching me a lot about astrology as I got to know them, which I thought was really cool, because for the longest time my only knowledge of astrology was, like I said, just knowing your zodiac sign. And then to hear that there's so much more, it's so much more than that, like it expands so much farther than that. I was just like blown away, like my mind just could not believe. And that's kind of like where I started to lose myself, was in hanging out with them and like learning more about this. Was like, and it's not even like, that's not even to say that Santi ruined me, or like they're the reason why like I lost who I was, because that's not at all the case. That is not at all the case. That is not how this story ends, folks. That is not how it ends. They just helped to start another journey for me. That's what they did when I met them. That's the purpose, I believe, of our meeting, is to help ignite the change that needed to be done so that I could be reborn and rediscover myself. So when I come back, I'm at a higher level. I'm more acknowledged about everything in the universe. And so understand this story does end happily. It does not end sadly. But anyways, back to the story we go. So yeah, so there, as we hang out, I'm like learning more and more that like I'm apparently a Pisces. And then at one point we were like a couple months in, we start hanging out. And then like from like just the way I behave and like the stuff I say and do, they like start to tell me, they're like, no, I don't think you are an Aquarius. I think you are, like, you're definitely a Pisces. And the more they would tell me like I'm a Pisces, the more like it kind of like ate away at me, that I was like, I'm not who I thought I was growing up. Like I'm not an individual. Yeah, I'm not an Aquarius. So like who am I then? Like what is a Pisces? What does that mean? And so like every time someone would ask, like, okay, so what's everyone's signs? And then I'd be like, or when people would ask me like, oh, well, what's your sign? And if Sandy was there with me, I'd be like, well, I'd say I'm an Aquarius. But if you ask them, and then they would say that they're a Pisces cusp, Pisces Aquarius cusp. And every time like that would happen, like more and more, like I would start to be like, dang, I guess I'm not an Aquarius. Like that's not who I am. And so like I just start kind of like spiraling a little bit. And then I'm like trying to like come out of it and like trying to like figure out what a Pisces is and like what's cool about them, what makes them like different and all this stuff. And like eventually I start to kind of not so much force myself, but I kind of start to just, and not so much accept either, I just kind of let happen, like the fact that I'm no longer who I thought I was. Like I'm no longer an Aquarius. Like I'm trying to like be a Pisces for whatever that means, like just trying to figure out who I am. So eventually like I kind of just let happen, like me being a Pisces. and I would do more, like I would read more about in my birth chart, or like try to figure out like more about who I was, and like not only like outside of just my zodiac sign, like figuring out what my rising does for me, what my moon sign does, and like why like I get angry sometimes because my Mars, and like all this stuff. Like I started to do more like research almost, or like I would ask them for more things, and like ask their knowledge, and like try to get knowledge from other people I would meet along the way as well, to just trying to like really figure out like, am I an Aquarius, or am I a Pisces, trying to decide which one I was, trying to figure out my way back to who I am. And so that was really a really hard time for me. So for like maybe like 2 or 3 years, because I think we've known each other for about 3 or 4 years now. So like 2 or 3 years, like as I knew them, I was just trying to like, I was struggling trying to find who I was again, trying to like accept being that I'm a Pisces, when I knew I didn't accept it at all because I didn't think I was. But then we fast forward. Okay, we're fast forwarding along through the story. We're picking up speed, folks. You want to see some real speed? Yeah, so anyway, so we fast forward like through my college years, and I graduate again. Like throughout like my whole college experience, I don't really have stories to say more other than what I've already said about my whole like dilemma of figuring out who I was, like what my sign was again, and like through the rest, yeah, pretty much through the rest of my college career, it was just more like discovering more about astrology and what it had to offer, and kind of helping astrology guide me to who I was again, and helping that, using the universe and the knowledge I was gaining from them to find myself again. Well, I guess not fast forward through college. I take that back. Anyway, so back to what I was saying. So, as I was using like astrology and the universe as finding ways to like help deal with what like these dilemmas and like the confusion I was having. So like I started getting into healing crystals, trying to meditate, but like also just trying to listen more to the universe and my gut and my instinct and my intuition, and just like diving really deep into that to help try to guide me, or try to help me find myself again, using that as a method, like a coping mechanism, to try telling myself that you know who you are. Like, no, it's okay, you don't know, just fine dining and breathing, you know more, I promise. Type of deal that I was having, like after realizing that I'm probably not an Aquarius. So that was what I was dealing with on top of like college and stuff, and I say this like as it sounds, my life was depressing. It was not. Like, it was just very confusing. Like the whole discovery of this, it was fun. It wasn't harmful. It wasn't bad. All good vibes throughout this whole story, I promise you. Like, it was good. But anyways, through college, I was just like figuring that out, finding something, finding who I was, finding something to help me help guide me back to who I am. And for me, that was astrology and the universe. So I was doing that. And then now we can go to where I'm out of college, I'm graduated. We're now in the year 2020. We're now up to present date, folks. That is right. I'm going to stop rambling about my college experience, because I think I've described it well enough for you to understand where and when I lost myself and was trying to find who I am again. But anyway, so we forward back to 2020, and in February, I was in a really bad accident. For legal reasons, I can't say anything more than that. So until those issues resolve, I will then talk about this on another episode of my podcast about my accident. But anyway, so I was in a really bad accident in February that left me in a wheelchair for about 5 months. I had a fractured wrist and a shattered heel. My heel ended up requiring surgery, which is why I was in a wheelchair, because I couldn't walk on it. And then so I have been going through physical therapy, and it's been going really great. It's been going really great, and I'm starting to learn how to walk again, so that's cool. But anyways, I'm not going to say too much about that because that'll be said in another podcast. So I go through this really bad accident, and this whole time, like, till now, like, I'm still like going through this struggle of trying to figure out who I am, thinking I'm finding myself again, and then like realize I haven't found myself. It's just me lying to myself, and just like kind of going through that thing. Anyways, and then so my accident happens, and then like a couple months after I'm healing again, I'm like, you know what, I feel like my accident, it wasn't an accident. Like, there was a purpose, there was a reason why it happened the way it happened, and what, you know. And so I asked my friend, I was like, how do you do a birth chart? How do you get one read? How you get birth charts reading done? And they said that you could get a reading from a professional astrologist. I was like, oh, that sounds really cool. And so they sent me a link to someone, and that I got my birth chart read from them. And then that was an experience all on its own. Like, it was just amazing. Like, the things that I learned about myself, and the things that she said to me in my birth chart that were in my chart, like, it made so much sense. It was there that I realized like where I started to find myself again. Like, this accident really helped to trigger me rediscovering T-Money, rediscovering who I am, and like accepting that I'm a Pisces, that I am a Pisces. Like, in my birth chart, during my birth chart reading, she told me at 0 degrees I'm a Pisces. So right under the line, I just barely crossed that line to be a Pisces. And that's when I accepted it. And the reason why I thought it was an Aquarius, I do have Aquarius in my chart, so there's that. I wasn't totally wrong in being an Aquarius. That is why I've always been like so different and wanting to stand out. So there is Aquarius in my chart, which helped me to feel better, but it also helped me to accept that I'm a Pisces, and that there's other things that come with the Pisces that I'm starting to learn and develop, when they're things that I've always had. And I didn't know that until I had this birth chart reading, and until my accident. And in the birth chart reading, she also told me why this accident happened and how it's gonna help for me to grow, and that I'm blossoming. And so like, I'm getting ready to reach my prime time of my life, and right now this accident has had to happen so it could help me like slow down and really develop who I am. So when I go into this, when I finish blossoming from here, is just prime T-Money. Things are just gonna be flowing. And like, hearing that, knowing that this accident happened for a reason, just really helped me not come to the conclusion, but helped me find myself again. And that was life-changing. Like, the things she said, the things I heard, it was just it was amazing. And it was just great to hear. After that birth chart reading, I started to find myself again. I really accepted that I'm a Pisces, but I also have Aquarius in my chart, which is why I am still different. I still think outside of the box. I still don't want to be like everyone else. And the thing that was said in my reading is that when I do things, I do them my way. Whatever it is I'm gonna do with my life, it's gonna be the way I do it, not the way everyone else has been doing that. And that's like exactly what I needed to hear, because that's a very big part of who I am, is doing things different. And so this birth chart reading just really helped me accept who I am, and helped guided me to finding myself. And now I'm finally, as I'm still finding myself and learning more about who I am, which is why I'm starting this podcast, is to discover more about me and work through my problems and everything that like I have to work on more, so I can become my higher self, so that my blossom, as I'm blossoming right now, when I finally shine into the world, I'm at my prime. I am at my higher self. And that's the whole purpose of this podcast. That's the whole purpose of T-Money Talks, is in doing this, I'm helping to find myself even more. Like, yes, I was once lost, but now I'm finding myself again. I'm discovering new things, and it's great. Like, astrology is amazing. Like, even if like you're not into it, I mean, look up your birth chart. There's a bunch of different websites that'll do it for free. There's a bunch of different apps that'll do it for you too. It's really cool. Like, I mean, of course, take everything I say with a grain of salt, because not everyone is into astrology, but I am. And it's starting to become a big part of me and my journey to enlightenment and figuring out myself. So, yeah, that's how I found myself again. That's how I still am finding myself again. I'm learning, like, every day now, every day since my birth chart reading, I have been discovering more and more about who I am, because I'm starting to meditate. I'm starting to do things. I'm starting to listen to my body. I'm starting to hear more and like really trust my intuition and just help those things guide me to who I am even more. So yeah, that's the story of how T Money rediscovered themselves. Now, of course, I still am in the process of finding myself. The story is not over. Like, I'm not like, okay, yes, and now I'm found. I'm perfect with who I am again. And although I am perfect the way I am, I love myself. There are still things that I am learning, that I will learn, that I'll discover, that I need to work through, because that's the best thing you could do for yourself, is just talking to yourself, listening to your body, listening to the universe, trusting your instinct, your intuition. Like, all of that is really helpful to help you discover more about yourself, or even just change some things about your life, you know? I mean, you don't have to change. It's totally up to you, but at least for me, that's what helped me discover and find myself again. So maybe it could help you too. Doesn't have to. Like I said, everyone believes what they believe. Everyone goes through life how they go through life, you know? I'm not here to judge. I hope you don't judge either. We're all just vibing, man. But yeah, that's how I found myself. And I hope I didn't bore you to death with my very long obsessive Aquarius talk. Like, it was just a big part of who I am. And it still is. But I'm a proud Pisces as my zodiac sign. I'm learning every day. But I still have Aquarius in my chart. And that helps make me who I am. So I hope you guys enjoyed this week's podcast about learning how T Money discovered themselves again. And I hope you join me again next week. I think I'm going to start uploading once a week, most likely on Wednesdays. So just to let you know, be on the lookout for Wednesdays for new podcast episodes. And until next time, guys, this is T Money saying live your life, because you're the only one who get it. All right, bye.